Your toaster looks surprised. The power outlet beside it looks angry. A cloud becomes a dragon. 3 bad mornings become a curse. And one song playing at the right moment feels like a message meant specifically for you. None of these patterns needs to be real. Your brain can build them anyway, quickly and convincingly, often before you have time to ask where they came from. This tendency has a name: apophenia, the perception of meaningful connections in unrelated or random information. Pareidolia is a more specific version, usually involving a recognizable image or sound inside something ambiguous. A face in a stain, words in static, a figure on the moon. These are ordinary products of a system that has to make sense of incomplete information all day long. A coffee mug gives you a good example. 2 dark spots and a curved line are enough to produce a face. The mug has no eyes, no mouth, and no opinion about Monday, but you see an expression. Face detection is so important to human social life that the visual system is tuned to respond to rough, face-like arrangements. Brain imaging studies have found that face pareidolia can recruit parts of the same face-sensitive visual network used for real faces, including regions in the fusiform cortex. The response can begin very quickly. You do not always inspect the object neutrally and then decide to turn it into a face. The face-like impression often arrives early. One experiment made that even clearer. Participants looked at images made from visual noise and were told that some contained hidden faces or letters. Many reported seeing the expected target even when it was not present. In that study, illusory faces were reported in about 1/3 of the noise images. Expectation did not simply add a verbal label after perception. It helped shape what people believed they saw. Now replace the mug with 3 geometric shapes. In a classic experiment by Heider and Simmel, people watched triangles and a circle move around a simple box. The shapes had no faces, voices, or written backstory. Viewers still described a social drama. One shape bullied another, 2 tried to escape, someone became frightened or angry. A few lines moving across a screen were enough for the mind to supply characters, motives, and conflict. That ability is useful. A person walking toward a door is probably trying to leave. We infer goals from motion because waiting for perfect proof would make social life painfully slow. The same machinery can also assign intention to a printer that refuses to work, a slot machine that is warming up, or an algorithm that seems to be personally punishing your account. The printer has a paper jam. It is not holding a grudge. Randomness creates a different problem. People often expect random sequences to look nicely mixed. Heads, tails, heads, tails, with only short runs. Real random data is clumpier. A fair coin can produce 5 heads in a row. A shuffled playlist can put the same artist on twice within 10 minutes. A neighborhood can have several similar illnesses without a single shared cause. Clusters feel designed because our mental picture of randomness is often too tidy. Take 2 exact coin sequences, HHTHT and HHHHT. Before any tosses, each specific 5-toss sequence has the same probability. Yet the first one usually looks more random because it alternates more. The second looks suspicious, even though runs are a normal part of chance. This mismatch feeds the gambler's fallacy. After several reds at a roulette table, black starts to feel due, although the wheel has no memory. The little plastic ball does not know the previous result. Patterns become even more persuasive when they involve rare or emotionally loaded events. Suppose a person has a terrible headache on the day a storm arrives. It happens again months later. Those 2 matches are memorable. The many storms without headaches and headaches without storms are dull, so they are less likely to be counted. Soon the person may feel certain that their body predicts weather. Maybe there is a real association for that individual. Maybe not. 2 vivid matches cannot settle it. Psychologists call one version of this an illusory correlation. Perceiving a relationship between variables that are not meaningfully related, or exaggerating a weak one. Distinctive events are especially easy to connect. A rare behavior by a member of a less familiar group sticks in memory, while ordinary behavior fades into the background. That can help create stereotypes. It is not necessary for someone to invent evidence deliberately. Attention and memory can quietly build a biased sample. A red car passes you just after you mention red cars. Then another appears at the next junction. By lunchtime, they seem to be everywhere. The number may not have changed at all. Your attention did. Once a pattern becomes relevant, the brain starts tagging matching examples. Non-matches still arrive, but they do not get the same little mental highlight. That sounds minor, but it matters. The effect can become stronger when life feels uncertain. In a widely cited series of experiments published in 2008, Jennifer Whitson and Adam Galinsky found that reduced feelings of control were associated with more illusory pattern perception. Participants were more likely to see images in visual noise and connect unrelated events. This does not mean every superstition comes from anxiety. It suggests that when control is missing, finding structure can become more appealing. You can see this in a boring way too. A project fails after someone changes the meeting time, so the team avoids that time forever. A football supporter wears the same socks after a win. An investor draws two lines across a chart and sees a formation that seems obvious only after the price is moved. One successful prediction becomes a screenshot. The failed predictions remain in a folder named Old or disappear completely. One influential framework in neuroscience describes perception as prediction. The brain uses prior experience to anticipate what is likely to be out there, then updates those expectations using incoming sensory information. It is a way to explain how the brain handles noisy, incomplete input efficiently. In good conditions, prediction helps you recognize a friend in poor light or read a word with one smudged letter. When the evidence is weak and expectation is strong, the guess can win. There is also a simple decision problem behind false patterns. Missing a real threat can be far more costly than reacting to a harmless one. A smoke alarm that occasionally screams because of burnt toast is annoying. An alarm that stays silent during a fire is worse. Signal detection theory formalizes this trade-off. Any detector working with uncertain evidence must balance misses against false alarms. Human perception does the same. A system biased toward fast detection will sometimes detect things that are not there. That evolutionary explanation is plausible, but it should not become another just-so story. Different kinds of pattern perception involve different systems. Face pareidolia, causal reasoning, stereotypes, and gambling errors are related by a family resemblance, not one tiny pattern center in the brain. Fine, but this is where it gets messy. The useful skill is broad, and the errors appear in several ways. Once a false pattern forms, it can defend itself. Confirmation bias makes supporting cases easier to notice. Memory compresses a messy history into a clean story. Hindsight makes an outcome look predictable after it happens. Social media adds a search engine for coincidences. With millions of posts, someone will have predicted almost any event in vague language. The correct prediction is reposted. The 47 wrong ones are buried under newer content. A captcha with blurry buses shows the practical version of the problem. Is that tiny gray corner part of the bus or not? There is no perfect answer because the image is ambiguous, and the decision rule is crude. Human pattern detection often works under similar conditions, only the stakes can be larger. Is this medical symptom connected to that food? Is this employee always late on Mondays? Does this number keep appearing because it matters, or because you began counting it? A few habits help. First, write the prediction down before the result. Something bad will happen soon can match almost anything. The package will arrive before noon on Tuesday can fail clearly. Second, count the misses as carefully as the hits. If a lucky shirt worked twice and failed 9 times, keep all 11 occasions. Third, ask for the comparison rate. 10 complaints sound alarming until you learn there were 2 million transactions. Then try to break the pattern. Look for evidence that should exist if your explanation is true, and evidence that would prove it wrong. Use larger samples. Compare against a control group. Randomize when possible. In medicine and science, blinding exists partly because expectations can influence observation. In daily life, even a basic spreadsheet can help. Dates in one column, outcomes in another. No dramatic arrows drawn afterward. Most important, separate noticing from explaining. I see a cluster is an observation. Someone caused this cluster is a causal claim. They caused it for this reason is another claim again. Each step needs more evidence. The brain tends to travel through all three in seconds, especially when the story is emotional. Seeing patterns is not a defect we should remove. It is how we read faces, learn language, recognize danger, make scientific discoveries, and understand other people. Creativity also depends on connecting things that were not previously connected. The goal is not to distrust every intuition. It is to know when intuition has earned confidence. So the next time a cloud looks like an animal, enjoy it. When the same number appears 3 times, notice it. When a chart, coincidence, or rumor seems to reveal a hidden design, pause before building the rest of the story. Your brain is an extraordinary pattern detector. It is also a storyteller working with incomplete data. Wisdom begins in the small gap between seeing a pattern and deciding that the pattern is true.
Thanks for watching! If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment below. See you in the next one!